However, Ramadan was sent for us rather than we were sent for Ramadan. What I mean by that is our journey, once we accepted the oneness of Allah, once we accepted that the Prophet ﷺ was the man who came with the final message, once we accepted that the Quran is not a text made by any man, but is revealed from the Master of the Day of Judgment, from the Lord of the heavens and the earth, from the one who created all and who is not dependent or reliant upon anybody. Once we accepted that the word and all which contains in the Quran is fact. In fact, it is so certain, it is more certain than any ilm that we gain in the dunya. The men of science and the men of knowledge say that maths is the most certain knowledge that we can determine certainty. However, the Quran is the only knowledge that we accept that is of certainty, that gives yaqeen. That's where the word certainty comes from. That's where the understanding of yaqeen comes from. So once we accept that, once we've accepted these words, then we know that our destination is eventually Jannah. That is our destination. I thought my voice was quite loud. Some people always say to me, you're too loud. Well, for those of you who are going to have a nap, you're in for a treat now. Those of you thought, you know what, he's going to talk for the next 20 odd minutes, shut the eyes for a little bit, nod off. He's going to be none the wiser. And then as soon as we hear the 3 takbeers, then we'll be just doing a little bit of this. Look to the guy to the right, look to the guy to the left, up, down, and then we'll be out of here. Now you're going to have to wait. So as I was saying, our destination is Jannah. That's what we have to believe. Once we accept the word of Allah, once we accept the Risala, the message of the Messenger ﷺ, then our destination is Jannah. However, that book, that messenger has told us that only the pious will enter Jannah. We have, once we accept the word of Allah, once we've accepted the message of the messenger, we accept that our destination is Jannah. That's what we've accepted. However, we are told by that very being that sent the book, by that very man who came, that only the pure enter Jannah. So with those two facts, that our destination is Jannah, but only the pure will enter Jannah, we now have to achieve the state of purity before we enter Jannah. When we come for Salah, we perform ablution. We enter into a state of purity before we stand for Salah. When we're going to perform ihram, going to ihram, in order to perform tawaf, we go into a state of purity. When we, due to intimacy with our wives, in order to achieve purity, we have to bathe fully. So we know that purity and achieving purity physically and spiritually is something that we must strive for. We get the option. We are given the option. Either achieve the state of purity in this world, or you will be purified in the next. That choice is ours. For those of you who studied some science back in the day, you will know that in order to take the iron from the iron ore, when we dig iron from the ground, it becomes polluted. It becomes oxidized. It takes up rocks. That iron is of no use whatsoever. So what do the people do in order to get that iron to be pure? They place it inside a blast furnace. That blast furnace is at a very high temperature, which makes the iron melt, so they get pure iron. Similarly, we are warned that if we do not purify ourselves in this world, then we will be purified in the next through the blast furnace, which is called Jahannam, in which we will be purified. Because for the two facts that I mentioned at the beginning, that only the pure enter Jannah. The impure will not be allowed to enter Jannah. So this Ramadan that we see in our rearview mirror, that has gone past and we've moved on, this came to purify us. This came to cleanse us. This came to put us in a state that if we were to breathe our last, and we talk about the fortunate ones who died during the month of Ramadan, or the fortunate ones who die in sajda, or the fortunate ones who pass away in these high spiritual states, we say they've gone, and they've gone in a good way because they've gone in a purified way. What is it that we are purifying? We know when we prepare for Salah, even though we might break wind, we wash our arms, we wash our feet, we wash our face, and we wipe our heads. It seems illogical that the body part from where we have committed the najasa, and we're washing for other parts that aren't related. But it's still a physical act which is not empty from spirituality. Because this physical body that you have is just a vessel. Even though we spend a long time staring into the mirror, making sure that we look good, in reality, this body looked very different when you were 5 years old. This body looked very different when you were 15, 25, 35, 55, 85. So this body is changing. But what's not changing is what's inside of you. Your ruh. This very same thing that was blown into a piece of flesh whilst we were still inside our mother's womb. This thing, this is what we are trying to purify. But this thing only becomes pure through acts through our body. So when we fast, even though that's impacting our body, it affects our soul. When we pray Salah, even though these are bodily functions, it affects our soul. When we circumambulate the house, even though it's a physical act, it affects our soul. And if you're unsure, when you give zakah, you feel the pain inside. Yeah? Now you know it's affecting the soul. Don't hurt the body then it's like this pain you get and you think, oh, where's this pain coming from? So even giving zakah affects the soul. All these acts are there to purify our souls, because only the pure enter Jannah. The impure don't enter Jannah. So in reality, what we see or what we perceive to be a burden Fasting we see as a burden. We are instructed as men to keep beards. We sometimes see that as a burden, that I don't look good with a beard. Getting up for Fajr we see as a burden, because I want to sleep in. To avoid acts which we find enjoyable, we see as a burden. These are, we're feeling as a burden because our soul is bearing the effect of it. Best example to give, and it's good to kind of pretend that we go to the gym every now and then, is when you go to the gym, and the first time you go, and you try to lift heavy weights, the next day you wake up, you're trying to phone the ambulance because you can't get out of the bed. So you're told by the instructor that you're supposed to do things slowly, that your body can't bear lifting those heavy weights immediately. You should go through this slowly, build your strength, build your strength. In the same way, our soul is being trained. Because when we land in Barzakh, we are all alone. In a dark place. All the people that used to be our friends have abandoned us. That social status that we had in the world has abandoned us. Those zeros in the bank account has abandoned us. All those things that we thought is going to save us has abandoned us. It's left us all alone in complete darkness. But those who've refined their soul, those who've purified their souls, to them Barzakh is literally like sleeping. They don't feel that pain because they've already prepared their soul for what is to come. They're expecting this. They're ready for this. It is that person who is gone to, say, fight camp, and he sits all day, doesn't train, doesn't do anything, eats what he wants, no discipline, eats what he wants, doesn't go to the gym, ignores the instructor, doesn't go through the moves that he's supposed to do. Then he turns up for the fight, he loses in the first round. Why should he be surprised? So we are preparing for the biggest fight of our life. The very purpose that we've been sent. And yet, unfortunately, the distractions in our pocket, the distractions on our face, the ego that distracts us from achieving those goals has meant that we are ill prepared for that day. So that, when we look back in the rearview mirror, was why Ramadan was sent. That was the aim, to spiritually give us some strength so we would be prepared for the fight of our life. But for some of us, we didn't switch on. We didn't realize. Many of the time, when people ask the question to ulama, that, oh, is my Hajj accepted? Or they ask, is my Ramadan accepted? Or they ask, will my zakah be accepted? The answer the ulama give is, are you different now than you were before you went for Hajj? Are you different now than before Ramadan started? Are you different now than before you gave your zakah? And if the person says, no, I'm exactly the same, then that's like the guy going to the gym and 6 months later he's exactly the same. Something's not right. Something's not right. He's either lying, he's eating the stuff his trainer told him not to eat. He's either not going through the moves on a daily basis. He's either just talking in the gym, he's not lifting any weight. Something is not right. So why is it that Ramadan comes and Ramadan goes, and we are exactly the same as when Ramadan started as when it ends? if you took your clothes to a dry cleaners, or if you took your clothes to a laundrette, and the laundrette guy says to you, leave them, I'll clean it for you, you come and collect them in a couple of days' time, or collect them later on this afternoon. You went to collect your clothes, and your clothes were as dirty as when you left them, what are you going to say to him? You leave your car for a valet. He says, come back in a couple hours. You come back in a couple of hours and your car is as filthy as it was when you left it. What are you going to say to him? So why are we concerned for a bunch of clothes not being clean, for a car not being clean, when Ramadan was sent to purify us and we are as filthy as we are after Ramadan as we were before it started? Why are we having a go at ourselves? Like, what's happened here? Now Ramadan came and I'm exactly the same after. I still don't want to pray my salah. I still don't want to do this. I still don't want to do that. What's gone wrong? And when we speak of character, it reminds me of a story. Whilst we vie with one another in terms of our cars, our houses, our dress, our money, the Sahaba radiallahu used to vie with one another in terms of deeds. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu saw Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu go to a particular house on the outskirts of Medina, and he would watch him. He would spend some time there and then he would leave. So after some time, Sayyidina Umar's mizaj was like this. The curiosity got the better of him. So he went. And when he went to this house, he found a very old lady. This very old lady could not get out of her on a mattress on the place where she used to sit. So he asked that this man comes to your house. What does he do? She goes, I don't know who the man is. Remember at the time, Sayyidina Abu Bakr is Amir al-Mu'mineen. He is Khalifatul Rasulullah and Khalifatullah at that time. She says, I don't know who he is. He comes, he cleans up, he prepares my food, and he goes. So Sayyidina Umar is overwhelmed by this, that Sayyidina Abu Bakr who has all these responsibilities, and in all of these responsibilities, he manages to go and tend to the affairs of this lady. When Sayyidina Abu Bakr passed away, Sayyidina Umar took it upon himself to carry this responsibility himself. So on the first day he visits her, so he cleans up, he prepares her food. So she says to him, is your friend dead? He thinks, how can she know that? So he goes, yes, my friend is dead. She goes, I know, because he used to take the date seeds out of the dates before he used to leave them. So how is it that these very men who were considered by the Byzantine Empire and by the Sassanid Empire as people we should not engage with because you cannot control the Arabs, they used to say. They're unruly. Because the question arises, there were these two huge empires at the time, the Sassanid Empire, the Persia, and the Byzantine Empire, which was the Eastern Roman Empire. Why did they never conquer Arabia? Why did they leave Arabia for? And they left it because they said the Arabs are unruly. Who's gonna control these people? You can't manage these people. They're so disparate, they're so separatist, they so always fight over things. We know, for example, that the whole reason why our Prophet ﷺ went to Medina is because the two tribes, Aus and Khazraj, never got on with each other. So they thought he was an ideal man to bring unity, and he brought unity. Alhamdulillah. So how is it that these men that were considered as men who could not be managed or controlled, or yet they had so much discipline and so much respect that they would carry out these kind of acts with no glamour, with no attention, with no focus? That is because they purified their souls. They did things because their souls were pure. How can it be that the Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in could use their own body parts as shields to protect arrows falling on the Prophet alayhi salam? How can that be? You think about it. To use your own body part. If, say, God forbid, one of our family members was on fire or something, we may at the heat of the moment, just reach and grab and afterwards think, I'm going to burn myself. But when you're seeing arrows coming and you're making a decision that I'm going to take that arrow, that's a different thing altogether. Why is it that these men, that when the Prophet ﷺ would perform wudu and water would be dripping from him, that they would try to catch that water to rub upon their faces? Why is it that these very men then had amongst their ranks the likes of Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid, who not only destroyed the Sassanid Empire, then he travels across and also at the same time destroys the Byzantium Empire? How is it that's possible? We look at these role models, don't we? Whether it's Ertugrul or whether it's Khabib, or nowadays it's Andrew Tate, I think. We get a little bit of a head rush, don't we? Oh, Muslims are strong. Muslims are powerful. And we so want this role model. We so want to look up to somebody who's strong and powerful because we feel weak. We feel weak. We want a hero. When we've been given something that gives us strength and we turn away from that. I always crack this joke, and I don't think I've cracked this joke in this masjid, so hopefully you've not heard this. And even if you've heard this, just laugh. For no man make him happy. Back in the day, when I was a kid, we used to watch these black and white flicks. So it used to be Laurel and Hardy. I don't know if anybody's seen them. They were funny. They used to make me laugh as a kid. And there's one particular scene. Laurel was a thin guy. Hardy was a big guy. Laurel was supposedly the stupid one, but Hardy was as stupid as Laurel. Sorry, you need this little bit of context so you understand what I'm going to say. So they go to stay in a hotel. They go to stay in a hotel. So Hardy, the big guy, comes downstairs, and Laurel is looking on the floor in the foyer. So he asks him, he goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm looking for my key." So he goes, "Okay, I'll help you." So he starts looking with him. So obviously it's just a carpet like this masjid. So if there was a key, you'd see it, wouldn't you? There's nothing that the key is going to fall under or fall behind. So after a while he says, there's no key here, He goes, "Okay, where did you drop it?" He goes, "Oh, I dropped it outside." He goes, "Where?" He goes, "Outside." So he goes, "Why are we looking for it in here for?" He goes, "It's dark outside." There's light here. So the question arises that we seek the purification of our souls, we seek itminan, we seek contentment, we seek happiness, we seek acceptance, we seek power, we seek respect in all these other things. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you that I placed it in your deen for you, and you don't need to look anywhere for it, just look in your heart. That is where you'll find it. Look in your heart. So we're a bit like Laurel and Hardy, We're told to look in our heart, and we're looking everywhere else for it. Whether it's in drugs, whether it's in fast cars, whether it's in women, whether it's in music, we seek this contentment everywhere else, like Laurel. And yet we're told, look for it in your heart. Your heart has the capacity to capture the miracles of the universe. Your heart is one of those things which can bring iman on Allah. Name me one thing which can bring iman on Allah. Name me one thing which a person can get that level of contentment where they would go to stand and help an old lady with nobody there watching them, where they would use their body part to defend another person, where they would take water to rub it upon themselves, where that very same person, Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid, who was a commander who never lost a single battle, even in Uhud he won. And when he was instructed by Sayyidina Umar, after he found out that the companions on the Tabi'in were saying that as long as we have Khalid ibn Walid, we're going to win, he made him a foot soldier. A foot soldier. What did Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid say? I accept. Because for him it wasn't about the status or the image or everything. It was about the work. It was about being part of something bigger than him. And that is this ummah. Is we are part of something bigger than us, better than us. And we get that honor, we get that respect when we become part of that ummah. But when we stand and set ourselves up as gods, when we start to worship our own ego, when we start to worship the things around us, the material things that we gather, then we are setting up partners against them. And that duty that we should have given to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that duty that we should have given to those that we were instructed to, we make an error. I started half an hour ago talking about the two things that we are instructed, that Jannah is our destination. But only the pure enter Jannah. There were the 2 points I made. Now our destination, so if you missed everything, they always say, don't they, do a little plenary at the end. If you forgot, missed everything, then these are your takeaway points. And when I say takeaway, I'm not talking about food. Your takeaway points. 1, we are created for Jannah, but only the pure enter Jannah. Our job is, from the day we were born till the day we will die, is to purify ourselves so we can enter Jannah. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is the Laurel and Hardy joke. When you say it, you have to give sanad to me, because I'm giving you sanad here, so I'm giving you ijazah. So when you narrate that story, you have to narrate it through me. That's the only other thing. Anyway, jazakumullah khairan. So obviously we're close to Salah time. So the instructions that are always given